All right. So this week has been good. It's been awesome. I've I've basically revisited the Traang warehouse, which is the location we're sitting in right now. This is the primary location. The theme of the game comes from uh, this restaurant, pizzeria, casino type of thing. Uh, it's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, and it's called Traang. And the mascot is a rat named Traang. And there's lots of interesting symbolism and things sort of decorating the halls of the location or the business, I guess. And I've gotten a chance to, or I should say, I've taken the opportunity to really think a lot more about what the visual style of Traang will be like, and this is kind of the direction I'm going in. And as you can see, there's sort of stone. It's kind of got like a castle like feel going on, and it's got some of these sort of these windows that I came up with after going through a few different designs and following sort of the design philosophy that I laid out in the beginning, where I want the game to kind of tell me what it wants to be, and this is kind of the direction it's going in. At least the location of Traang, which will be the first playable level in the game, and it will likely start off in this warehouse type of setting, and of course it'll branch out into more of like a main area, where more machines will be, like the cream machine and other ones, and of course all the stuff that you'd see in a sort of a Chuck E. Cheese shopping mall like situation with concession stands or food, um, prizes, stuff like that. So I know that that's my intention. I'm still not exactly sure how I'm going to execute it, but that's the general direction. And I've also included sort of the box art that I did for Milo, um, and I hung it on these banners kind of for a few reasons. One, it's like I don't have a lot of work that I would put on here for this game, artwork, but and also because I kind of want to have it as a reference, because I know that I think I said last week that I'd use these banners as or this image rather, to inform sort of the visual style and the palette of the game. And I'm not married to it necessarily because it's so early on when I did it, but it helps me stay informed as to like how closely I am following it. And I think that so far I've deviated at least a little bit in some regards, but also stayed on point. Like for example, these landscape, these mountains in the distance, and having this sort of orange gradient up to the sky. That's something that was taken directly from this, and the quality of the mountains will definitely be changed over time. Those are very quickly done, and they'll kind of resemble more what's in there. If that is the direction I am gonna be faithful to. Um, and of course the font, that's something that has definitely been on my mind, because what I've found, especially in this type of like swirling, whimsical type of design, I found this to be kind of much more visually compelling, and it made more. It just for some reason it worked, and kind of when I created this decal graphic for this window, I was made aware pretty early that it was at odds with the main font of the game. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to square that. I'm not even sure if it even needs to be, because it's not like this is going to be the only thing you see in the game, but there is something kind of cool about the way these sort of this sort of flowing type of symbolism contrasts with the structures, so like the angular kind of you just sort of, I don't know, I actually can't find the right words, but there is something kind of boxy and just very angular about the structures themselves, and to have something to offset that, like in terms of a very almost like a floral type of design in windows or in trim patterns, might, I think it might actually serve the style a lot. And of course that is the antithesis of what you see in the cover art, where it really does maintain that kind of angular, much more rigid structure. So that's something I'm always bouncing back and forth in my mind, and I think it's still early on enough that I do have the freedom to sort of play and just continue building. So I think this would be the third week consecutive week that I've really focused almost solely on the visual style of the game, and I feel like it's starting to have more of a with each passing like week that I spend time on this, it's having more and more of a coherent visual style and tone. And I think that probably my biggest goal for the game is it to have a scary element, to have a horror uh, uh, atmosphere, but also be humorous and kind of elicit like a sense of. I want it to have a sense of absurdity, and I kind of want to explore that, that I don't know, that duality, I guess, of just the scary and upsetting and sad with the absurd and the comical, because I think that they're more closely linked than we sometimes give them credit for, and I think that's like my favorite place to play, space to play in as like a creative person, I guess. But not to get too lofty, talking about these things, but that's the truth of it. And but down to the sort of nitty gritty, I had a lot of fun making this sort of small vignette, this ashtray, with the little smoke particle effects. I've got a little radio here, and it actually has a backlight. I don't know why there's an emissive part of that texture that actually is a part of that radio. Let me see if it's actually in here. No, it's not in there. It would be in Office. Here we go. I wonder if this would make a difference. No? Maybe not. Maybe it's just not even. Oh, you know what I think is happening is. Oh yeah, no, it's there. It's getting obscured by something else. Well, that's fine. I'll take a look at that a little later. Oh, you know what? Might be just one thing. It might be the physics. No, that's not it. Oh, that's right. So I got a little distracted there. So I spent quite a bit of time just creating these assets for this set of entities or assets or whatever for the kind of like an office type of area, which has got file cabinets. It's got a couple pencils, pieces of paper. It's got a cork board and some post-its and a piece of paper and a desk lamp, which has a light and it can be damaged. And of course these books, and I also threw in these barrels, and I spent some time just kind of making this area and this game specifically have a real sense of being able to play around with the objects, having a physical simulation in the game. I think that one thing that occurred to me this week was that one thing that I kind of am really attracted to is making this game, and one way I can set this apart from a game like COD Zombies is by really introducing more physical simulated actors into the game, including the zombies. Why couldn't the zombies have more of a physical simulation? And that could mean zombies colliding with other zombies, using zombies as weapons. It could mean a lot of things, and especially with the environment, it can mean a lot of things too. And of course, like with introducing mechanics like that, giving players the freedom to be more, to be able to use the environment and use physical simulations comes with a pretty big challenge of balancing and making sure that the game isn't really easily exploited with a gameplay loop that's similar to COD Zombies, because in those games there was really no actual there was no any meaningful like physical simulation in the sense that you couldn't block zombies, you couldn't change their path, you couldn't affect the environment in a way that would really affect the navigation of the zombies, and that's really for good reason, because if that part of the game breaks, then the whole game breaks basically. So, but I think that because of a few things about this game, like for example the more retro nature of it, the more low poly nature of my game, I don't know if I'm not sure how much that will free up in terms of resources, like in an online game, and with the with GPU type stuff and CPU or whatever it requires to do physical stuff, but I guess time will tell, because I don't know too much about it to speak on it, but I do know that Unreal Engine has a really amazing, just robust way to do physical simulations at a seemingly kind of low cost, and without having to really get into the more complicated stuff of trying to implement this. So we'll definitely see. That's going to be on my mind, and I think that it'll be a big part of me playtesting and prototyping. How the actual pace of the game, in the near future. Sound is also a big part of the future in terms of like what I need to address that I've hardly addressed much at all, but I've got a few things, and I feel confident it'll get there eventually. The particle effects are also something I spent a lot of time on, especially wood and in the metal. I think I showed off a similar metal particle last week, but this is a little bit more revamped. It's got a little bit, it works a little bit better, and I think it's very satisfying to watch and to hit something that's metal. And the wood, of course, also comes along with the wooden decal effects, which I made in Photoshop today. And not to mention the concrete or default decal effects, which I reworked to make them a little bit more dynamic and interesting. Also, the impacts themselves release spawn another particle emitter that basically just like lets out a little bit of smoke, from the heat of the blast. And I try to keep it pretty subtle, and I think I found a result that I like. One thing that I don't like is that when it's affected by light, it tends to be way more opaque than I'd like it to be. And I haven't really found a way to work around this yet, but I think this is a nice happy medium. And the wood chips flying out from the wooden surface when it's damaged is something I'm definitely pretty happy with. I think all the particle effects, all the visual effects and just the models and the textures, everything can kind of be pushed pretty far. And really, it comes down to a matter of what kind of level of detail, what kind of resolution is going to be feasible for a one-man development team, or one-man show. And I think that the level that this is at is pretty reasonable, and I've applied basically the same level of detail broadly across all of the assets that are in my game now. For the most part, I think the Cream Machine, the hero asset can do a little bit better, or could use a little bit more love in terms of maybe beveling some edges, maybe kind of redesigning this kind of blocky thing right here. It doesn't really work too well in a design sense, in my opinion. It's the general silhouette of the Cream Machine, I think, is not terribly interesting from just a general silhouette shape point of view. But that's okay. I can work towards something better over time. Oh, and also this trim pattern here is something that I spent a little bit of time on, and because I wanted to have something that was sort of cream, really cream-like, and had that kind of sense of dripping, gooey, kind of like that flowing stuff that I was talking about earlier. And I actually tried to implement it here in the trim on this brick wall, but it totally competed with the brick wall, or it didn't make something about it was wrong. Like, it didn't make sense. Like it would be on a brick wall, or something was wrong. So I decided to just kind of move it into this little off room and hide it away so I can glance at it, longingly, and look forward to the day I get to use it. I figured maybe something that's this sort of more playful and colorful like this will be better put to use in the main lobby area of Traang. And yeah. So what else? Particle effects, textures, lots of I'm still discovering new workflows, new ways to expedite certain things in the texture workflow. And it's good because it's just getting faster and faster, and I'm able to implement things very quickly, and it's very cool. Now the first person I also did some work on, and namely the walk animation is I'm very excited about. It's the walking and the footsteps that play, regardless of whether you're pressing the D key or the W key. The uh, the firing animation, the shell ejecting from the chamber, the the flash at the muzzle, and all these things are stuff that I sort of tinkered with and tried to perfect as best I can. And in fact, when I got closer to a result that I liked with the pistol is when I also started to realize that the environment was definitely far kind of worlds behind the work that I had done in the first person models. So that is kind of what convinced me to just I just go dig in and just bring everything up to speed. And one thing that I thought was really that I really enjoyed doing was these boxes. These boxes now have a second UV set that displays the text, and there's a few variations. Well, I guess three variations to be exact, and they all display a different part, or one or two or all of these little decals where it says cream, blah blah blah, and then you got a little expiration date and the fragile, of course. So this is like actually four sides, and this one's pretty hard to read unless you're really up close. But I'll just maximize it. That'll probably make it easier. That one just says Traang Industries is a subsidiary of Traang Corporation. QA, quality assurance, and food safety tests were conducted in Los Angeles, California. So kind of like a fun way to add flavor to the game, and give a little bit of credit to the person who will play this and actually spend time kind of meandering around and trying to get as close as possible. There's text on there. Can I read that? I want to find as many moments as I can to give people a chance to be rewarded for their curiosity in this game. If they want to, like for example, one of my ideas is, if they want to see if they can get up here, let's give them a chance, to test their ability to get up there. And once they do get up there, well, maybe there's like a little Easter egg or something. And that the reason I like that is because I enjoy that in games, but also because I tend to be very ADD just in general, and I like playing games where I can sort of choose my objective in at will, and if I'm like I guess to give an example, like let's say to enter the next level or whatever, you had to go through that door, but nothing would really trigger until you actually went through the door. Well, I'm the type of person who would just hang out, and just be whistling and just think, oh, it's over here, That's the kind of person I am. That's the way my mind works, and what often happens to me when games that I really really like is I'll just wander around and I'll just see something. I'll just be like, huh, wow, that's really neat. It gives I discover an Easter egg, and it gives a lot of credibility to the world, and I have to give some credit to the people who made it for actually giving a shit about someone who might see this, instead of just thinking, oh, who cares about that. So I definitely will be looking for ways to uh, to explore that. You know, of course. Also, another thing which will easily go unnoticed, but it's something that was really important for me is kind of making these damaged roofs a little bit more dynamic. They were much more. The angles were much more like kind of 90-degree angles. There wasn't a lot of variation. I think it could still use a little bit more love, uh, even still, to be honest. But this is a huge step up from what it was before. Also, these cables, which is a work in progress for sure, but I felt like this space that I'm making, it really was in need of some sort of something to break up really the 90-degree angles. There's sort of this really like perpendicular quality to this whoops to this level, this angle and this angle and this angle and this angle. And to have something just sort of streaming across uh, the environment, this room, it just seemed like a good opportunity to kind of break up the monotony and give it some real visual some really visual interest. I know I'm using a lot of art school terms, but I these are concepts that they teach in art school, and they are applied all the time in especially like AAA games and a lot of indie development studios that have really have good talent, good artists who care about that type of stuff. And I think I have a lot of there's a lot of room to improve and to make this more dynamic, and to make all my environments in the future more dynamic. Uh, but yeah, having the um, having this up here, I think helps a little bit steer it in a more interesting direction. Now this uh, landscape is something that I'm working on. In fact, I'll just show it to you. What it's not showing is the um, this is a block out. I think. Right. So this is kind of yeah, it's hidden in game. So yeah, this outside scene is something that I'm working on. It's a block out, in the sense that this is really just one big static mesh that I'm using um, in Maya to kind of develop some of these smaller assets that will be modular. The modularity of environment assets, at least in my experience, it takes it takes a bit more time, because it's snapping becomes an issue. Snapping like different pieces of geometry together, so it uh, becomes a little bit more of a to do, more of a thing. But rather than kind of rush it and kind of get something as quickly as possible, I decided to kind of just step away a little bit, because this is a massive project in itself, creating a believable scene that works from the inside, looking out. And I opted more to get even bring the level of detail, the level of quality, to a higher level inside of this small space before I started to branch out, because invariably that stuff's going to be it's not going to be as detailed, and there's going to be texture resolution corners that will have to be cut, so that it's more optimized. But yeah, I mean that's mostly it. I think this week, it's funny. I've been on such a real I'm on a bender, basically working on the environment assets and mostly dealing with the artistic side. And I think that I'm gonna have to pull myself away from it, pretty soon, because I'm a month away. Wait, month away or 2 months away? Maybe a little less than 2 months away from my plan to release a very early test build. And I do want to have a relatively solid gameplay loop, and I want to implement reloading, and I think I want to give myself enough time to think about how I want to implement certain things, and at a certain point it's just not going to be feasible to continue on the environment. So it's definitely something to consider, but we'll see. But yeah, anyway, have a wonderful week. Drink lots of water as usual, and take care. Love you. Toodaloo.